How often do you lie? Most people find that question almost offensive because they consider themselves honest. But ask a different question instead. How often do you lie to yourself? And suddenly people freeze because lying to yourself rarely feels like lying. It feels like putting a positive spin on things, like optimistic thinking, like telling only part of the truth, almost anything except a lie. But how much does that tiny distortion of reality actually cost us? Imagine an old, rotting house that is on the verge of collapsing. Its owner desperately wants it to look solid and well-built, but he doesn't have enough resources to truly repair it. So he patches holes with paper, props up weak walls with makeshift supports, holds broken pieces together with tape and wire, paints over the cracks, and hides the worst parts behind beautiful flowers. Yet no matter what he does, something is always leaking. Something is always falling apart. So he repairs it again. He ties things together. He glues another crack. He reinforces another wall. It consumes an enormous amount of energy. And every time the wind begins to blow, he lives in constant fear that this will finally be the day the house comes crashing down. If all the energy spent maintaining that illusion had been used to build a new house instead, it would have been finished long ago. Lies work exactly the same way. Truth, even when it hurts, requires remarkably little energy because it already matches reality. The moment you introduce a lie, however, you begin constructing an imaginary world, and your life quietly splits into two. Reality exists without your help. It doesn't need you to maintain it. It doesn't require you to keep checking that one lie still matches another. It simply exists. Inside the imaginary world held together by lies, however, everything looks beautiful from the outside while the structure underneath has already begun to rot. Lies go against your nature, which is why they demand constant effort. You don't have to remember the truth. You always have to remember a lie. That is why lies are so expensive. In an imaginary world, every detail must be managed, every contradiction hidden, every crack carefully covered, so the illusion stays alive. But reality never disappears. And perhaps the most important question isn't how long you can continue living this way. The real question is, how much of your life are you willing to spend paying for a world that doesn't even exist? No one knows the answer. Some people live this way their entire lives. But every lie drains a little more of your strength until, instead of living in reality, you find yourself trapped inside fantasies of your own making. A life built on truth fills you with energy. A life built on lies can only empty you. Because a house that is already rotted must eventually be torn down before it collapses under its own weight and buries you beneath it during the next strong wind. Being honest with other people is difficult. Being honest with yourself is even harder. But the hardest thing of all is paying the price of a lie. Truth sometimes destroys, but only what has already become rotten, making room for something stronger, healthier, and more beautiful to take its place. A lie, on the other hand, will keep whispering that the house with mold-covered walls and holes in the roof is the best home you'll ever have, and that you should hold on to it no matter what. Truth tears down the old house only once. Lies force you to live inside it every single day. That is why lies are expensive. And truth has always been free.